Hi, I'm Pranamya and you're watching Pages of the Globe. So if you're new to my channel, I essentially read short stories. I will sometimes also read poems. Before, I will tell you a little bit about the author, some of the historical situation, when the story was published, why it was published, and then I'll give you an in-depth analysis of it. So I will tell you about what are themes present, what is symbolism, what are the motifs that are there, what is a character analysis on each of the characters, what the underlying message is, things like that. If you would ever want to hear a short story and you notice that I haven't done it yet, please comment down below. If you recommend it, I will definitely read it out loud. But I have uploaded so many videos, over 100 videos. So if it is a popular short story, then I've probably read it. So you can always search my channel, whether it's for a school assignment, for just personal enjoyment, whatever it may be. But yeah, the short story that I'll be reading to you today is called The Chaser by Collier. Now this is probably one of my favorite short stories, honestly, or a newer favorite, like newer top 20, because it's actually, at first it seemed like a deceptively simple short story. It's kind of short almost, but as you read more and more into it, you start to realize that there are some very deep, kind of creepy details about the story. So what is happening in this story? Well, it's about this young man who walks into this creepy older man's house, and the older man sells these magical potions, and the young man is in search for a special one because he has a job to do. And as we read the short story, you'll kind of start to realize there is something a little bit crazy about this, but I feel like until you completely finish it and then sit with it for a while, maybe even reread it, re-listen to it, that's when you'll truly understand the message, and that's what I would recommend you do before you listen to my analysis. But if you are fine with just listening to that straight on, then that's totally fine. If you just want to form your own solid opinion first, I'd recommend listening to it a couple times. So because I don't want to spoil too much of the short story, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the author. So Collier was born in 1901 and he passed away in 1980. He was born in London, England on May 3rd, and he was largely self-educated. He dropped out of formal schooling in his teens, and he began writing poetry as a young man before transitioning to fiction and screenwriting. As for some career highlights of his, he is best known for his short stories that have a sort of twist, whether that is dark, witty, and it often has an element of fantasy or sci-fi or satire. His stories frequently feature things like irony, surreal situations, and subtle horror. The Chaser is one of his most anthologized stories. It's often used in classrooms to teach about irony, satire, theme, dialogue, things like that. He had a quite successful Hollywood career in the 1940s and 1950s. He wrote or co-wrote screenplays for films such as The African Queen, published in 1951, however, that was uncredited work. The Warlord, published in 1965, and released. I'm so used to talking about books and literature here. And I Am a Camera, released in 1955. He is known for his ability to adapt literary works to the screen with a psychological depth and dramatic irony. His major works that you may have read would be Fancies and Good Nights, which is a short story collection published in 1951. It actually won the International Fantasy Award, and it is a definitive collection of his short stories. Some other short story collections include Presenting Moonshine, published in 1941, and Pictures in the Fire, published in 1958. Some notable short stories: The Chaser, obviously; Evening Primrose, which is a surreal story about a poet who hides in a department store after hours, and this was actually later adapted for TV and musical stage. Back for Christmas, which is a chilling story of a man who plots to murder his wife. I actually might end up reading some of these, we'll see. As for just some quick awards and recognitions, Fancies and Good Nights won the Edgar Award for Best Short Story Collection in 1952, and his work influenced later writers of speculative fiction, dark humor, and psychological horror, including authors featured in The Twilight Zone and Black Mirror, which I have read so many short stories that have actually inspired stories that later became adapted for the TV on The Twilight Zone and Black Mirror. So I feel like oftentimes whenever I read stories like this, almost always I see a connection to one of those two TV shows. As for his legacy, he's not widely known. I feel like I say in every single video that this person is one of the greatest, masters of this type of short story. He's not widely known. However, I would say he is very, very good at the modern short story. His work has been studied in schools for its economy of language, irony, and thought-provoking moral undercurrents. His stories have withstood the test of time because of their subtle horror, clever construction, and psychological insight. Without further ado, let's get on with the video. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below which short story you would like me to read next. The Chaser by John Collier. Alan Austen, as nervous as a kitten, went up certain dark, creaky stairs in the neighborhood of Pell Street and peered about for a long time on the dime landing before he found the name he wanted written obscurely on one of the doors. He pushed open this door, as he had been told to do, and found himself in a tiny room which contained no furniture but a plain kitchen table, a rocking chair, and an ordinary chair. On one of the dirty buff-colored walls were a couple of shelves, containing in all perhaps a dozen bottles and jars. An old man sat in the rocking chair reading a newspaper. Alan, without a word, handed him the card he had been given. "Sit down, Mr. Austen," said the old man very politely. "I'm glad to make your acquaintance." "Is it true," asked Alan, "that you have a certain mixture that has extraordinary effects?" "My dear," replied the old man, "my stock in trade is not very large. I don't deal in laxatives and teething mixtures. But such as it is varied. I think nothing I sell has effects which could be precisely described as ordinary." "Well, the fact is," began Alan. "Here, for example," interrupted the old man, reaching for a bottle of shelf. "Here's a liquid as colorless as water, almost tasteless, almost imperceptible in coffee, wine, or any other beverage. It is quite imperceptible to any known method of autopsy." "Do you mean it's poison?" cried Alan, very much horrified. "Call it a glove cleaner if you like," said the old man indifferently. "Maybe it will clean gloves. I have never tried. One might call it a life cleaner. Lives need cleaning sometimes." "I want nothing of that sort," said Alan. "Probably it is just as well," said the old man. "Do you know the price of this? For 1 teaspoonful, which is sufficient, I ask $5,000. Never less, not a penny less." "I hope all your mixtures are not as expensive," said Alan apprehensively. "Oh dear, no," said the old man. "It would do no good charging for that sort of price for a love potion, for example. Young people who need a love potion very seldom have $5,000. Otherwise, they would not need a love potion." "I'm glad to hear that," said Alan. "I look at it like this," said the old man. "Please a customer with one article and he will come back when he needs another. Even if it is more costly, he will have to save up for it if necessary." "So," said Alan, "do you really sell love potions?" "If I did not sell love potions," said the old man, reaching for another bottle, "I should not have mentioned the other matter to you. It is only when one is in a position to oblige that one can afford to be so confidential." "And these potions," said Alan, "they're not "Oh no," said the old man, "their effects are permanent and extend far beyond the mere casual impulse. But they include it. Oh yes, they include it, bountifully, insistently, everlastingly." "Dear me," said Alan, attempting a look of scientific detachment. "How very interesting." "But consider the spiritual side," said the old man. "I do indeed," said Alan. "For indifference," said the old man, "they substitute devotion. For scorn, adoration. Give one tiny measure of this to the young lady, its flavor imperceptible in orange juice, soup, or cocktails, and however gay and giddy she is, she will change altogether. She will want nothing but solitude and you." "I can hardly believe it," said Alan. "She is so fond of parties." "She will not like them any more," said the old man. "She will be afraid of the pretty girls you may meet." "She will be jealous? She will actually be jealous?" cried Alan, in a rapture. "Of me?" Yes, she will want everything. She will want to be everything to you. She is already, only she doesn't care about it. She has when she has taken this. She will care intensely. You will be the sole interest in her life. Wonderful, cried Alan. She will want to know all you do, said the old man. All that has happened to you during the day, every word of it. She will want to know what you are thinking about, why you smile suddenly, why you are looking sad. That is love, cried Alan. Yes, said the old man. How carefully she will look at you. She will never allow you to be tired, to sit in a draught, to neglect your food. If you are an hour late, she will be terrified. She will think you are killed or that some siren has caught you. I can hardly imagine Diana like that, cried Alan, overwhelmed. You will not have to use your imagination, said the old man. And by the way, since there are always sirens, if by any chance you should later on slip a little, you need not worry. She will forgive you in the end. She will be terribly hurt, of course, but she will forgive you in the end. That will not happen, said Alan fervently. Of course not, said the old man, but if it did, you need not worry. She would never divorce you. Oh, no. And of course she would never give you the very least grounds for uneasiness. And how much is this wonderful mixture? It is not as dear, said the old man, as the love cleaner, or life cleaner as I sometimes call it. No, that is $5,000, never a penny less. One has to be older than you are to indulge in that sort of thing. One has to save up for it. But the love potion, said Alan. Oh, that, said the old man, opening the drawer in the kitchen table and taking out a tiny, rather dirty-looking phial. That is just $1. I can't tell you how grateful I am, said Alan, watching him fill it. I like to oblige, said the old man. The customers come back later in life when they are better off and want more expensive things. Here you are. You will find it very effective. Thank you again, said Alan. Goodbye. Au revoir, said the man. The end. So that was The Chaser by John Collier. Before I begin my in-depth analysis, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the story. So it tells the story of this young man named Alan Austen who visits this old man in search of a love potion. And he believes that the potion will make the woman he desires fall in love with him completely and permanently. However, the old man hints at a sort of darker reality and offers him another product, a mysterious chaser that implies the possible long-term consequences of an artificial love, not true love. So what are some themes we see in this story? At first I would say it seems like a very simple story. However, I would say there's a lot going on. First of all, there is the theme of obsession and a very idealized type of love. So Alan's pursuit of a love potion, first of all, kind of is revealing a very superficial understanding of love. He doesn't seem to even want the connection that love gives. He seems to just want devotion. And I feel like the story is kind of critiquing people who mistake possession for love. And they seek control over another person rather than mutual affection. So another theme that is there is the illusion of control, right? So Alan wants to manipulate feelings through a potion because he thinks it will bring him happiness, right? He thinks that by forcing this girl to fall in love with him, and I would say it is forced because she doesn't know what's happening. She doesn't know she's taking a potion. But she has no choice in this, right? And I would say this old man has these very sly warnings that suggest to Alan that love cannot be controlled without consequences, right? The theme warns us that playing with forces that we don't truly understand, whether it is emotional, magical, or ethical, it's not the best thing to do. We see a theme of capitalism, right, and commodification of emotion. This old man is selling love, he's selling devotion, he's selling murder in these tiny little bottles. And it kind of critiques how emotion is almost treated like a transaction. Everything seems to have a price, including affection. And the more dangerous product, the chaser, is for later, like an upsell. Then another theme we see here is naivety versus experience. So Alan is this young, naive man, while this old man is cynical and experienced. The story kind of highlights how youth often ignores wisdom and only learns the truth after suffering consequences. I want to talk a little bit about the characters here. So first of all, we have Alan, right? He's very naive, he's romantic, he's insecure. He believes that he can shortcut genuine connection through magic. He doesn't even notice the old man's warnings because he's being blinded by desire. His trust in the potion shows how truly easily people can ignore red flags when driven by obsession. The old man is like calm, he's experienced, he's very ambiguous. The way he delivers dialogue, it's all filled with like double meanings, and it hints at long-term consequences. He also doesn't stop Alan, which some might say is because, he's like trying to just earn money. However, he only sold the potion for $1, so I don't think that. I think it's just because he knows at the end of the day, experience will be the teacher. The way he even discusses the effects of the potion, I would almost say that it is something he has experienced himself. It is something, he created himself. I would say the old man is just a symbol of fate or simple capitalist exploitation. Some people, I was like looking on the internet, and some people said he is a symbol of like the devil, which I could see, yeah. If we're talking about symbolism, what does a love potion represent? I mean, instant gratification, right? Selfish desires and artificial relationships. It kind of shows how people often force affection or mistake infatuation for love. Then the chaser, which is like the poison, what does that represent? It kind of represents consequences, regret, and escape. It kind of implies that obsession, once fulfilled, could turn into like hatred. And it's a very chilling desire that, the thing we most desire may become the thing we most fear. So I feel like throughout the story, the old man is kind of saying, this girl will eventually or she will immediately become obsessed with you. And he says himself, customers who I sell these little cheap things to, they always come back for the bigger thing. And, it's a way for me to keep my customers. And so it almost shows that, the thing that Alan wants the most right now is the thing he will hate the most later on and will try to get rid of. What is the interpretation here? What is the message? Well, at its heart, it's a very darkly comic parable, essentially about how desire can backfire when it tries to bypass genuine human emotion. And it critiques this consumerist mindset where even love has become this thing you can just buy and something you can sell. The story's power lies in what it doesn't say, its subtlety, the implication. And the fact that Alan is ignoring the warning signs kind of speaks to a broader human tendency, right? We chase what we think we want, only to later realize that we didn't understand the true cost of it. So what I just wanted to show this the final bit of irony almost. The title, The Chaser, right? It's referring to the poison that comes after the sweet drink of love. So in drinks, a chaser normally follows a shot, right? Just as the poison will follow the love potion. Or it might follow the love potion. And I feel like it's a metaphor for how today's desires become tomorrow's regrets. That is it for today. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below which short story you would like me to read next.